Well, welcome back to another episode of my controversial topics. I said I was going to do one on the pagan origins of Christmas. So here it is. I'm going to go over a lot. A lot of it, of course, is based on history. A lot of what goes on today is because of history. And I really had to narrow down my outline of topics because there are so many different rabbit trails that you could go off onto. It could make for a long presentation, so I wanted to keep it in the lines as much as possible. Some of the things that I'm going to go over today, if you watched my last video on the pagan origins of Christianity, a lot of it relates to what I'm going to talk about today as well. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch that. So Christmas, here we are. We're just upon that time of the year in the month of December. Many of you are very excited for it, as was I. It was the most wonderful time of the year for me, for our family. Celebrated it for many years, just up until a few years ago when we started to wake up to many truths and started digging in and understand what we were doing and what it was actually doing. So, but when we were in it, we went all out. Our attic was full of Christmas stuff, Christmas lights. We decorated the house. I'd have Brad decorate almost every house full of lights that we've lived in. All of the stockings, the trees, the gifts, we went all out. And it was a full month of celebration. Even, my kids would say, Mom, it's Thanksgiving. You didn't even I'm surprised you haven't put the stuff up yet. Usually I would start before Thanksgiving. I thought it was just a me thing then, but now it seems like everyone is starting to decorate really early, even before the Thanksgiving. So it's a big deal. It's a big time of the year for people. And I loved it. I loved the time, but it was also very stressful for me because I kind of got wrapped up into the materialism with the gifts that we would get, who we had to buy for, how much we had to buy for them. It has become very much, and I would think that many of you agree with me, it has become a very materialistic holiday, sadly. So many people are like, oh my gosh, I got to get my shopping done. You go shopping. We notice in the stores, all you hear is Christmas music to put people in the mood to buy more things. It's a lot going on. And, people would ask me, do you, if they asked me then, why do you celebrate Christmas? I'd be like, oh, Jesus' birth. And never dug into it, never knew why. That's all I really know. And it's like, okay, well then why do we do, all the tree and this and that? Well, because just everyone else does it, right? It's what the tradition has been all along, and never really looked into it. So I am going to go ahead and doing all of these things, the first question we need to ask ourselves is why? Why are we doing these things? Why are all these traditions? Where did they stem from? I would also wonder, I did start questioning it before I started digging in. Actually, quite a few years back, it would just sit in the back of my mind of, are we really celebrating what we think we are? Because all of these other people that are, not Christian, not following the Bible, not reading the scriptures, different, atheist to Buddhist to all different, everyone celebrates Christmas. And so I knew something was up, but it was just something in the back of my mind. So when I started digging in, started seeing really then why that is, and you'll understand at the end of this presentation. So we ask ourselves, why? See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Yahusha. Colossians 2:8. So we have been deceived. Satan knows exactly how to work. He knows where to work. He knows what to do to get people off track. And so we need to ask ourselves, why are we doing these traditions? And from, the Christmas spirit, you hear that Christmas spirit. It really is a spirit. And at the end of this, you'll see it's a very evil spirit, a very deceiving spirit. The buying gifts, the stockings, the Santa, the tree, the wreaths, the different things. And all of these celebrations, all the feasting, everything that goes along with it, it actually was celebrated long before the birth of our Messiah, Yahusha. So let's go ahead and get started on the history, and I'll work our way through. So we're going to start with Saturnalia. And I will show you here that a lot of the different religions, the belief systems, they all celebrated at this time of year the winter solstice in a different way. Saturnalia was a Roman festival honoring the god Saturn that began around the 5th century BC. In ancient Rome, it was the celebration of the winter solstice. It was about a week-long party, so roughly December 17th through the 24th, honoring the agricultural god called Saturn. And so Saturnalia was the festival. Rome was actually known as the city of Saturn, and it had the traditions. All of Saturnalia included giving gifts, so toys to the children, singing Christmas carols, lighting candles, feasting, drinking, gambling. I'm going to start getting into a lot deeper things, worse things. Merrying, making, decorating merry Asher trees, and that was borrowed from other cultures. However, during this carnival-like festival, everyday social norms were actually reversed. So the masters waited on the servants. All of the sexual prohibitions were lifted. So things went crazy. Dresses were exchanged. So men were dressing like women. Erotic dances were performed. There was gluttonous feasting, gambling, drunkenness, public nudity, and orgies. And the word orgy comes from the word orgia, meaning secret worship. So when you look at things, when you look at most of these traditions and these rituals and all these different things, they very much relate to sexual rituals. And so among the early Christians, the word Saturnalia came to mean orgy. And so they had all of these different religions, all these different people would come together, have this big festival in Rome. As we know, I always say all roads lead to Rome. All the religions come from Rome. Baptists, Lutherans, Catholics, Seventh-day Adventists, Presbyterian, Jehovah's Witness, Christianity, watch my last video, non-denominational, which is actually not non-denominational because they're following many man-made doctrines. All of this came about. They all came from there. And so massive festival during the winter solstice. All right, then we're going to move in to some other religions that celebrated this time of the year. We've got Mithra, Saturnalia, Yule. I'll kind of go over these. All of these traditions were held way before our Messiah, Yahusha, was even born. Odin, the Norse god, was celebrated during the winter solstice, as well as the god Dionysus. Dionysus also, he had a sleigh and reindeer pulled by white reindeer. You'll see in each of these cultures there was some sort of, it was a different sort of, the same theme, but something different along with it. In Mithraism, the holiest day to worship the sun was on December 25th. So all of this was sun god worship. Besides sacrifice to Mithra, there was gift giving, food, and drinks, just like the Saturnalia festival. And then we have the Yule here. Sorry, I'm in the way. I don't know how to move me. So it's covering up. I try to move out. I'm not technical. I did figure out how to get the video to work though, so that's good. I'm not sure how to move that on PowerPoint though. So you'll have, so with the Yule, the majority of Christmas is where the majority of Christmas traditions originate. You have the Yule log, the Yule tree, the Yule boar, the Yule goat. The Yule goat represented the Norse god riding through the sky on a chariot led by 2 goats, so kind of like Santa's reindeer. The Yule goat also represented an evil spirit going around punishing children that were bad. And he was known as Krampus. And Krampus was a companion of Satan Claus, really. So I don't know, y'all might have heard of Krampus, pretty evil. I think I saw that there was like a movie out. I wouldn't even want to see the previews on that. I can't imagine how bad that probably is. But Satan's pretty much not hiding in anything anymore. He's in everything that is on the screen in the theaters these days. And here, if you just read the screen, I got some few facts on Saturnalia and Yule here. So again, all celebrated during the winter solstice. All right, going back to Babylon. Go back again, as if you have not watched my last video on the pagan origins of Christianity and where the name Jesus came about. Please go back and watch it. It's in detail. It will help you understand a couple of the things that I'm going to tell you in this. So please go back and watch that. It'll make more sense. So here we have Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. And we're going to discuss who they are and how they fit into all of this. So Nimrod was the husband of Semiramis. He was a mighty hunter and also built major cities there's quite a few, but to name a few, Babel, Ashur, Nineveh, and Calah. This is also where a great amount of evil and pagan worship took place. Semiramis, his wife, she was known as the Queen of Heaven. She also has multiple names. If you see on the screen here, I have many names for Nimrod, but same with Semiramis. She has multiple names. Just to name a few are Ishtar, which is Easter. I'll be doing a video around that time, explaining all the pagan origins of Easter. It's pretty bad. Isis, Ashtoreth, Aphrodite, just to name a few. And then Nimrod, a few of the big ones are other names that he had: Baal, Moloch, Odin, Dagon. So you can see that there below. So with the 3 of them here, the story goes that when Nimrod died, Semiramis was crying, and a teardrop, I've also heard a drop of blood, dropped onto a tree stump. And then out of this tree stump, a new evergreen sprung up overnight. So it was fertile, represented fertility, and symbolizing his spirit bringing new life. Semiramis claimed that Nimrod became the sun god. She was then claimed she was immaculately impregnated by the rays of the sun, which then she conceived Tammuz, which then she stated was her husband Nimrod reincarnated, is Tammuz, the sun god. She had become pregnant at Easter and gave birth on December 25th. So people then worshipped Tammuz, which is another reason around this time that Yahuwah confused the languages, because things were getting completely out of hand. So then the way that Tammuz died, he was killed by a wild boar, pig, and Semiramis mourned along with the people over his death by refraining from eating meat for 40 days. That's when you can dig into that and find out about Lent in the Catholic Church. And then after this, that they mourned over Tammuz's death, the sun god, They then had a big celebration where they ate ham. Hence why people eat ham at Christmas and Easter. Now I think a lot of people are doing that at Thanksgiving time. That all stems from the death of Tammuz, the sun god, the reincarnated of Nimrod. Nimrod, also Baal. And as you can see on this screen, there are many gods of time, pagan gods, pagan sun gods that have the birthday of December 25th. Again, Yahusha wasn't even born at this time. The Bible does not state, but according at all, I mean, the Bible doesn't say exactly when he was born, but he was roughly born around the pagan, I would say September, October-ish, roughly the 10th month of the biblical year, around Feast of Tabernacles, based on the time of year, the environment outside, is roughly when our true Messiah Yahushua was born. So as you can see on here, Hermes, Buddha, Krishna, Horus, I mean, this is just to name a few of these with the birth date of December 25th. On here, you can also see Jesus, which Jesus was actually created. Jesus is not the Messiah in the Bible. He is not Yahusha. Jesus, the name comes from Rome, comes from Constantine, created later on. So go back, watch my last video on that. So many gods with the birthday of December 25th, not the Messiah of the scriptures at all. So with the Jesus, if you haven't seen the other video, just a brief explanation, was a combination. It was basically a whole, it was meshing together some of the gods to create, that Constantine created his own god to please everyone, and Christianity. So it's Jesus, also as Zeus, Horus, and Krishna, which became Jesus H. Christ. Jesus then also represents Tammuz. All right, so we'll get into Constantine a little bit more. In 274 AD, Aurelian declared Sol Invictus as the official deity. Rome made a temple, which is where they held celebrations. Sol Invictus, or the invincible sun or unconquered sun, was the official sun god of the Roman Empire. That is who Constantine worshipped. He was a sun worshiper. Always kept it in, never gave that up. In 336 AD, the first celebration took place with Constantine. When Constantine created Christianity and Jesus, remember I told you he created the God Jesus. People think that Jesus is the Messiah of the scriptures. Again, he is not. His name is Yahusha. I was falsely calling on somebody that was created way later by Constantine. He also at this time created his own holy days, now called holidays. As we know, Satan is a copycat. He's got to completely copy everything that Yahuwah has done. So all the holidays are pagan and Satan's own spin on, so that he can create his own holy days, holidays, to please all of the religions. Constantine brought all of this together in Christianity, Christmas, Easter, the name Jesus, all these things. He set Jesus' birthday, Jesus H. Christ, set his birthday to go along with all of the other gods so that everyone could be happy, celebrate at the same time. So he set Jesus' birthday at December 25th and carried it along with all the festivities, all the celebrations from the other religions, including, he just took some of the Bible scriptures to mix it all in, which the Bible tells us definitely not to do that. Don't want to be playing both sides of the card here, but he did this for deception. And many of the rituals and symbols, they were all fused together to create this new faith. So it was a melting pot of all of this, wanted to make it look good, called it Christianity, and there you go. So a lot of these, here we have the traditions, right? Traditions to Christmas. We're just going to go over a few. There's a whole lot. I've already kind of mentioned a couple of them. I'll skim by those, but we're just going to go over a few of the Christmas traditions that we do. So we're going to start with the tree, the Christmas tree. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and read Jeremiah 10, 2 through 4, which the Bible clearly states that this was a pagan act way back when. Thus says Yahuwah, learn not the way of the nations, nor be dismayed at the signs of the heavens, because the nations are dismayed at them. For the customs of the peoples are vanity. A tree from the forest is cut down and worked with an axe by the hands of a craftsman. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with hammer and nail so that it cannot move. So there was pagan practice way back when. The tree, as I was saying, represents reincarnated Nimrod. When I spoke about Nimrod, Tammuz, and Semiramis. In almost every pagan tradition and celebration, it is related to fertility. It has sexual connotations because it sprang up. Semiramis got impregnated, so the tree is actually a phallic symbol. And then how we decorate it, we decorate it with those ornament balls. Need I not say any more on that? And the tree actually is related to obelisks. I did a posting on my Facebook about obelisks. I'm not going to get into it, but you can look it up. Obelisks and steeples are also phallic symbols, false worship symbols. And where do you see steeples? I don't even need to tell you. It's on all the churches, the buildings. And so it's basically representing Nimrod's parts. Yeah, it's pretty crazy digging into this, where this all came from. And many people actually worshipped the trees. And if you think about it now, like I think about it, when we get up in the morning, we had all of our gifts under the tree. The kids came down. We had all of our tradition. We'd go through the stockings and we'd go over to the tree. Think about the kids. They would kneel under the tree. This is another way that Satanists do it. When you see that picture, or you see pictures of kids kneeling under trees, that is like, that's worshiping the tree. It's a way for them to kneel down. They're opening gifts. Just Satan has done so much to put worship on himself without us even knowing what we're doing. The star on top of the tree, that is not the Star of Bethlehem, as mainstream Christianity and most people teach. That is actually a sun disk, and it represents the sun god, Saturn, Moloch, Remphan. And so the star of Remphan, which represents the Israelites' false god and their rebellion against Yahuwah. And you can pull up Acts 7:43. It says, yea, you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, figures which you made to worship them. And you'll see that 5-pointed star in many other pagan places. It is a pagan symbol. All right, so we went a little bit over the Yule goat, going through the sky for Santa's reindeer. The Norse god Odin, which became Saint Nicholas, becoming Santa Claus. There's a whole lot on Santa Claus that I won't get into and make it for a very long presentation. But the different cultures, the different religions, different areas have a different story. It's all pagan. It's all based on the Norse god Odin, but you can pull those up. It goes pretty deep on where a lot of that stems from. But with the Norse god Odin, the children would leave their booties or socks by the chimney so that Odin would fill them with gifts. And Santa brings around gifts. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that's because the wise men would bring gifts to Jesus. Well, and how many? If you actually read the scriptures, you'll see a lot of this is just been, it's just been storytelling along the way, and just these traditions that have been set. The Bible does not say how many wise men there were. As a matter of fact, they did not visit him right when he was born. It's believed that it was more like 2 to 3-ish years that they went and visited him after his birth. So the whole nativity scene is very Catholic. It's a pagan scene that was created in Catholicism. So there's that. Another thing. Coca-Cola, actually, Santa's red and white robe. Coca-Cola. This kind of came about with the commercialization of everything. You'll see a lot of the pictures of Santa drinking a Coca-Cola, the red and white. So that's where they get his red and white. So history is telling us all these things. History plainly tells us all of the origins of the holidays, and that they are all pagan. And they'll tell him that himself. We can come up with as many excuses. Well, we do it because of this. Well, we're doing the gifts because of this. They're all excuses. They're all excuses. You go back, you dig in. Why are we really doing this? What is this? It's false worship. Now onto the elves here. So which comes from also the Norse, where elves were called afar. They were believed to be beautiful, and they had strong magic powers, creating illnesses, as they said. There were different types of them, and some of them were known as small gods of nature who would intermarry with humans. That's very interesting. So, okay, holly and mistletoe. I meant to put a picture of holly on here also. But those are both things that a lot of people, very festive during Christmas time, a lot of people decorate them. I know I used to put mistletoe up in our house. They actually represent, could have guessed, fertility. The holly was a sacred plant for the Romans to their god Saturn. Mistletoe was said to be magical and bring them good luck and protect them from evil spirits, kind of like their idol. And it was known for fertility. And so that's where you get kissing under the mistletoe. It was actually worse during the Saturnalia festival. People did much more than just kissing under these mistletoe in hopes to get pregnant. So, all these things, it is, like I was saying, they're idols. What does Exodus 20 verse 4 say? Thou shalt have no idols. And all of these Christmas things, the Christmas trees, Santa, all these things, they're really idols. We can say, no, they're not. I just do it for fun. No, they really are. They are idols. And just thinking about it, back on the Santa Claus thing, think about what parents do with that. They are lying to their kids. They are, they're lying. Oh, Santa comes, he's going to be coming. You are literally lying to your children. And I will tell you, even before I studied this out, probably about, my son was probably 12 years ago-ish. 14 years ago. A while ago. Anyways, we were talking to him, and he came up and he said, you know what? He's like, is Santa real? And we're like, yeah, he is. He's going to be coming. And he's like, okay, well, he was guessing that it wasn't. He goes, okay, well, then how do I know God is real? I don't know if Santa's real, so how do I know you're not telling me the truth about God? And we're like, oh my goodness. Right then, we knew we needed to fix it, because we're lying to our children, and how much more are they going to, and we think it's all just fun. No, there is so much evil behind this. Satan knows exactly what he's doing. We've got to recognize these things that we're seeing are okay just because the rest of the world is doing it. Romans 12:2, do not conform to the ways of the world. Okay, pine cones. Pine cones, I guess, kind of go in line with the evergreen tree represents actually the sun god Osiris. So the Egyptian staff of Osiris, 1224 BC, depicts two spiraling snakes rising up to meet at a pine cone. In an ancient Assyrian palace, there are carvings. This was way back in BC also. The 6th century BC depicted wings, like winged people holding pine cones. The pine cones are actually in a lot of different pagan rituals, not just Christmas with the Christmas tree and the evergreen tree. It's in a lot of things. Actually, where I live, the pine cone is one of their symbols. It's very Masonic. Once you start seeing symbols, you start noticing symbols all over. Satan's got a stamp on everything. So all of these depictions seem to use the pine cone as a depiction of spiritualism, spiritual consciousness, enlightenment, awakening, immortality. And the Celtic religion, pine cones represented regeneration and used as a, you guessed it, fertility charm. And the ancient Romans associated pine cones with the goddess of love, Venus. The Greeks and Romans also incorporated the pine cone into their religious beliefs and systems. Dionysus, later known as Bacchus or Bacchus to the Romans, he was always depicted carrying a staff woven with ivy leaves and topped with a pine cone. The Romans, they later built an enormous bronze sculpture called the Pygna, I guess. It's in the shape of a huge pine cone. It's like 3 stories tall, I guess. Didn't know that. And then let's see here. I guess according to a medieval legend, the sculpture stood on top of the Pantheon as a lid for the round opening in the center of the building's vault. It is confirmed to have served as a large fountain overflowing with water next to the temple of Isis in ancient Rome. So the statue now sits right in the front in the Vatican in Rome, and I guess it is in the court of the pine cone. So Catholic religious tradition is intricately decorated with pine cones, and you'll notice the staff that the Pope holds, it's got the sun at the top. That's for the sun worship. And then in the middle of the staff, there is actually a pine cone in there. And as a lot of you know, the Pope refers to him as the Holy See. The coat of arms of the Holy See found on the Vatican flag. It features stacking of three crowns, similar to the shape of a pine cone. And the very name Holy See appears to be a direct reference to the third eye. That's a whole nother video. Very demonic. So, with all this being said, as we know, Christmas has really become very commercialized. The focus isn't even on what people think that they're focusing on. And even if you do say, okay, well, we actually do it because of the birth of Christ, now you know it's not the birth of the true Savior of the Scriptures, Yahusha. It's not related. It is the pagan god Jesus, also with his birthday placed at December 25th with all of the other sun gods. It is sun worship. And now, there's all these, just like all the pagan celebrations, doing all of the same things that they're doing. But now it's like all these things with the materialism in it, and it causes, I have here, overspending, credit card debt, family feuds, impulse buying, overloads of alcohol, drinking, unhealthy foods, sugar, all these things. It's the gluttonous, it's these things going on, and then you might say, well, hey, you know what? No, it's really good because we get together with family and we do these things and it's very special. I get it. I was there, and it's very good to get together with family. We always should get together with family. And it is okay. It's okay to get together, with the family, but doing all these rituals and these traditions, it's just the same way at Saturnalia. They were family, they were friends all getting together, doing all of these rituals. It is false worship. It is false sun god worship. And we are not supposed to follow the doctrine and the traditions of man, but we were supposed to worship our Father in heaven and his Son. It is just so, this thing, I thought that was kind of funny, that little thing that's put over there. It's just, merry capitalist, consumer-driven corruption of an ancient pagan solstice, fertility holidays, Christmas. Sadly, that's what it is. Christ Mass, that is where, Rome, that name came from Rome during that time of Constantine. It is a pagan holiday with pagan rituals. Again, this is, like I said, this is something I was convicted of a few years ago, just a few years ago, and our family dug into it. And as the blinders have been removed, I had to come to grasp the fact that this is completely false worship. It did take time because it was my favorite time of the year. Seriously, we decked everything out. We went all out with the stuff, with the kids, and it took time. Even when I started to recognize, what it was, it was kind of gradual, like, okay, well, maybe we just won't, put up as many decorations. Maybe we'll just kind of back down on this, but we'll still do this. And I was like, you know what? I cannot play the Laodicea card anymore. I cannot be lukewarm, because you have to choose which God, who are you going to follow? And I can no longer follow the ways of Satan and what he's doing and his copycat holidays, these pagan days. I can no longer take part in any of it because I need to worship and follow my Father in heaven. And it is that spirit of Christmas. It is that spirit of Christmas. People are like, oh, the spirit of Christmas is, but don't realize that it's an evil spirit of Christmas. Satan knows exactly how to get to people's feelings. He knows how to make things look good, like, oh, this is fun. We're doing very innocent things. That is the spirit of the enemy, to make us do these things so that we are falsely worshiping, so that we are worshiping him, not doing what we truly feel like, that we're doing good. It's really worshiping him. And it's taking us, honestly, it is taking us down a wrong path. People can't just say, I believe in Jesus, and it's all good. First, we don't even know who Jesus is, what his real name is. We got to even know who his name is to even start to get to know who he is. And we learn these things, but this is why I wish people would have taught me these things back when, because I didn't know, and we only know what we know. But once we are told these things, we've got to wake up and really study to see who are we really following, because judgment has not happened yet. And that is why Satan is working as hard as he is. Why would he do all of these things? Why would he cause all these feelings if he wasn't up to something? Because he wants to take down as many as he can. And like I've said, he goes into all the churches. Look at these. The pastors, they're misleading their congregations by teaching the ways of man. And you see in these, they're all decked out with Christmas trees. They're having Christmas programs. I know our family always went. It was a big deal to be involved with the church at Christmas time, and it's like, oh, well, they're giving to the poor and they're doing these things. Yeah. So did the people back then at Saturnalia with the false worship, doing all of these things, doing all of these traditions. It is leading man down the wrong path. Those pastors are going to be held accountable. Us individually are going to be held accountable. So we can't just blame it on them going, hey, my pastor told this, and because they said it's okay, and because all of the churches are doing it, it's okay. No, it's time to start standing up, asking questions, and wondering why they're doing what they're doing. That's where the deception is. And we are going to be held accountable if we can't stand up for the truth to these things, because we are individually saved, not from somebody else. We can't just blame it on somebody else and call it good. So it is a path of destruction doing these things. I'm going to be very blunt about that. It really is. So it's very important to understand what we are doing rather than just trying to keep the blinders on. Time is getting short. There is not much time. We've got to figure these things out. 2 Timothy 4 verse 3 says, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers." So, people are just they just want to hear what somebody, a pastor, whoever says that gives them the okay to do what they're doing. Dangerous. And as Revelation says, come out of her, my people. We've got to come out of these false doctrines. And the more that we study and understand, we can't just ignore these. We've got to know who our Father in heaven is and his Son. And so I just pray that you really consider everything that I have told you in this presentation. Here's a couple verses here. I'm going to go ahead and read them. "Thus making void the word of Yahuwah by your tradition that you have handed down, and many such things you do." So there, like I said, there's a lot of traditions. Mark 7:13. We were told, we were warned. "But the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him. Yahuwah is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth." We must know who we are worshiping. So as long as we cannot be we need to stay in the word and not in the world. We're in the world, but we do not want to be part of it. We do not want to give into the darkness of it. As long as we stay in the darkness, keep those blinders on, we will not see the light that Yahusha wants to give us. So I pray that you study these things out, look it up. You can pull it all up, but really take this in consideration. It is a lifestyle change. You will be persecuted. You will be looked at different. Our family is. We are very strange to people because we are not doing these things. This is why I no longer can do it. And it is different, but we will be standing in the end. We are going to be held accountable, and we must understand who we're worshiping and not the people of the world. We must look up, not looking horizontally on what the rest of the world is doing. Again, my favorite verse, Romans 12:2, "Do not conform to the ways of the world." So I thank you for listening all the way through this, and I pray for you to be blessed in all of your studies going forward. And then until the next time, I will see you in my next presentation. Thank you.